Good evening and welcome to our very first online information session. I am Veronica Kerwin. I am the Director of the Peabody Community Foundation. Thank you all very much for joining us this evening. I'm joined by Helen Mulgan, Carol Wright and Ali Perrott, who are going to speak individually about their role in the project and how they've found things working with us over the last 12 months. But just a few brief words from me. The Community Leaders Programme, we've created this to increase opportunities for more people to take part in more activities right across London and the South East. The funding offers support to really help people turn their ideas into reality and to help you make a difference in local communities. Last year, we had just over 28 applications, and over the coming 12 months, we would like to see that double. We've increased the pot of funding for the next 12 months. And Helen's going to explain a little bit about what the application process is and how you can access the funds. But just to kind of give you a bit of background into some of the projects that have been successful, we've had an upcycle project which has taught people how to repair and rebuild their bikes from scratch, and we've got a short video on that. We've had ideas around children's events about bringing people together through half terms and summer terms, and we've had some knitting workshops. We've had people busily knitting things for their local community to share and to also sell as part of gifts for Christmas holidays as well. So I'm going to hand over to Helen, who is the Community Mobilisation Coordinator within the Foundation, and she's going to speak a little bit about the application process.
Thanks, Veronica, and hi everybody. Thanks for coming to find out more about the Community Leaders Grants. We're really excited to have so many people who are interested in hearing more, and we've already had a really successful start to this project, so we're really excited about starting the next cycle. So I just want to talk to you a little bit first about why we wanted to run projects like this, why we wanted to offer grants for the Community Leaders Programme, and you know, what kind of things we want to support. And I'll also talk to you a little bit about how to apply and what the application process looks like, so that I can kind of settle any kind of concerns you might have about that being too complex or too long. So firstly, we really wanted to sort of set this grant up because from our research and understanding of the communities of Peabody and the community we want to reach, our communities really respond well to projects initiated and developed from within the community. And we know that communities are the best people to help their wider communities, people who are in that community who understand and know what's needed and how that support would be best received. So we're really passionate about getting those resources where they can be most effective, and supporting people who have a great idea and who want to make a difference to their neighbour, local school, friend, or club that they're part of. So that's why we wanted to run a programme like this and issue these grants. I think Veronica just mentioned a few of the projects that we've already supported, but you know, one of the questions that I'm sure a few of you have is will my idea be something they're interested in, or what kind of projects do they want to support? And the answer is really, we want to support anything that supports the community. We want to support any programs or projects that can have a positive impact on the community. So that could be something to do with the impact of COVID-19. It could be just something to do with health and fitness, food, well-being, just general coming togetherness of a community and spending time, which is, you know, something that I think we're all really craving, especially because of our multiple lockdowns. So any project is really something we're interested in hearing about. If you feel like your idea could be a positive impact or influence in your community, we really want to hear about it. What if you don't have an idea? If you don't have an idea already, but you are someone who's passionate about making a difference, and you know that's a calling for you, but you haven't really kind of identified what that area might be, we'd still like to work with you, and there's a number of things we could do. We can work together to identify a need, or create a project or an idea, or we could also partner you up with somebody else who might want to do something and might already have an idea. So if you're just interested but you don't necessarily know what your goal is yet, we can definitely have a few conversations and support you there as well. In terms of how oh yeah, and thanks, we've had that link posted in the group there, so if that applies to you, if you haven't had an idea or you'd just like to know a bit more about it, we have a form that you can fill up, takes 5 minutes, just to register your interest. And what I would be able to do maybe is match you with somebody who has a project already that you could support with, or I can help brainstorm some ideas for you as well. So in terms of what the application process looks like, and if you are someone who's ready with your idea, you know what you want to do, you just need the money and you want to go for it. The form that you will fill will be an online form asking a number of questions about what your project looks like, what your idea is about, and how you might measure your impact. So that would be, maybe you're going to ask for feedback from the participants, or maybe you've got a form that you would like them to fill. Maybe you're going to count the numbers of people you've supported. There's lots of ways we can measure impact. If you'd like some guidance, that's also something we can help you with in terms of how to measure impact effectively. The form's also going to collect some sort of admin data from you, how many people you're going to reach, where are those people based, what kind of things would you like to spend the funding on, and then also some questions about things like risk assessments and photos and video sharing. So it's a comprehensive form, but I would say it won't take you more than 15 to 20 minutes to fill. So that's a process we've changed slightly from the last round of applications to, as Veronica mentioned, make it a bit more simple and a bit more concise and easy, because we want to hear about as many ideas as possible. Once you submitted that application, if we are interested in taking that forward, and if we'd like to know more, we might ask you a few questions. If it's good to go, we'll be asking you to fill out a risk assessment form, which we can also help you with. That will look definitely specifically at COVID-19 safe precautions, and also sort of general slips, trips and falls, how we can make sure your project is safe. And we'll also ask you to give a budget, which would be detailed sort of expenditure, how you're going to spend the money, and what kind of things you'll be spending the money on. And then really we will be trying to get you to get your project off the ground as quickly as possible, and making it as successful as it can be. So filling out that budget, we will then be able to support you with purchasing the resources that you need, or getting the funds where you need them, in terms of how to make your project effective. So that's a rough kind of outline of the process. Once you've run your project and completed it, we will ask you to do another form, online form, which would be an evaluation. You may do your own evaluation, which would be amazing, and we'd love to see it. And so that would just be to collect some data on the impact your project has had. And we might want to talk about your project in other places, things like webinars like this. You're going to hear from Carol and Ali, who are two of our amazing alumni project completions, and they're going to tell us about how that was for them. So we may ask you to come and join webinars in the future. Don't let that put you off. I think Ali and Carol will ease your worries there. And yeah, we'd like to kind of champion the work that you've done and celebrate it and take it forward. Peabody also has other grants that might be suitable for you, but if not, we can potentially help you sort of take your project to the next step. So that's a bit of a summary about the Community Leaders Grant. And there's a time at the end of this session for Q&A, so I'll be happy to answer any questions that I didn't cover here. And yeah, I think we are going to watch a video now, which should hopefully give you a bit of an idea.
Just before we go to the video, Helen, I did forget one piece of housekeeping at the beginning, and that is we will have a section at the end for Q&A. So if you post them now, we will make sure we cover them at the end. And as Nikki or one of my colleagues loads up the video, I'll just introduce it. So as Helen said, we're trying to make the process really simple, and we've got some former grant holders here to talk about that this evening. So thank you both for coming. We had a third grant holder we were hoping could be with us this evening, Philip Dobson from Upcycle, but he sent a video for us to have a look at. And again, he talks about how you can donate bikes, bits and pieces, and we will send some links around if you're interested in that particular project about how you can do that. So we will go to the video now.
Hi, I'm Phil. I'm the founder of an organisation called Upcycle. We take second-hand bikes and refurbish them before donating them to charities that work with young people from ethnic minority groups. We're based in Brixton, and that's where we run our project that we teamed up with Peabody on. It's called Earn Your Bike, and we get kids from the area into our workshop to learn how to do stuff like changing tyres, changing their brakes, and then at the end of it they get to keep a bike for free. So it's a really great way of connecting with young people in the area and also giving them the skills that they need to sort of go on and hopefully get jobs in the cycling industry. We teamed up with Peabody quite early on in the project. We didn't have any tools or any equipment, stuff like that, just had a load of bikes that needed fixing. So with their money, we were able to go out and get a really great toolkit which had everything in that we needed, and then that meant we could run the workshops. So we had our first workshop back in December. We had 6 young people from the area turn up, and they absolutely loved it. They were all getting involved, all learning how to do stuff like change their tyres, change their brakes, and it meant that at the end of it they all had bikes to cycle away on. So really great way of connecting with them, like I say. Plans for the future are to carry on using the tools that the grant from Peabody allowed us to buy to run more workshops. We've got 2 or 3 plans already for when lockdown ends, with more people in the area, and the word just keeps spreading. I'm getting lots of interest from other people, so yeah, everyone's really keen to get involved, and apart from getting a bike, they get all the tools and all the experience and the knowledge that comes with fixing a bike. So it's really great. Really recommend working with Peabody. They've been amazing, always there for support, and it's not just the money. You can give them a call or an email with any questions, and they've been really great guiding me because this is quite new to me. So yeah, really recommend it.
Great. So that's an example of one of the projects that we funded. I'm now going to hand over to Carol Wright, who's going to talk about her project. Carol. Carol, sorry, you're on mute.
Hi, yeah. So I'm used to doing projects with Peabody, but this grant was for something different this time. So if I share my screen, I can go through that one. So yeah, this was different. So this is where we are. So this is Southwark, and it's Blackfriars Peabody Estate, and this is an actual life-size map of the part of Southwark, and you can see the Peabody Estate there marked out. And this is a historic photo engraving of our estate. So not like that now. The estate is 150 years old. So one of Peabody's original dozen estates. And it's important to show you these 2 things for the reason is we're used to having events. We're used to people coming onto the estate and doing events with us. We're a lovely grade 2 listed estate. This was an event which took place about 7 years ago, working with Emergency Exit Arts on Blackfriars stories. What happened though last year with the first lockdown, we found that we had young people who weren't able to be in school or at university hanging around a basketball court. This caused friction. If they were loud, they, you know, what else were they going to do? The youth clubs and the schools are closed, but it caused such a level of tension that we received 2 dispersal orders. And I show you the 2 images at the beginning because it was a shock to our system. People like me, who are now considered estate elders, parents, children, families, that we could receive a dispersal order when we've been cooperating, having arts events. So the response to the dispersal orders was Black Outside 2020, inclusive event run by the youth, supported by myself and other arts practitioners and housing people that I know, to do a 4-day charity plant sale in our community garden here on Peabody Blackfriars, and encourage people to come safe distance to sell plants for charities and to do mosaic workshops. So what we asked for, the Community Leaders Grant, and we got also a youth grant, was to run these workshops on the estate. You can see these events programmed. So we had webinars on the Friday. On the Saturday, we had seed ball making and hyacinth bulb giveaway and Dr. Bike. And on the Sunday, we returned to being online, doing yoga and finishing off the plant sale. So we asked for money for PPE. We asked for support from Peabody to do the risk assessments. For it, we asked for some money to print these posters, so you can see the front and the back of the poster there. And here's an image of some residents buying the plants. So we had plants donated by plant nurseries around London, because we understand the mental well-being that having greenery in one's life can have. So house plants we decided on. So here's a resident in the community garden buying plants. Here's some more people, and this man here, Jack Cornish, actually heads up user engagement for the Ramblers. So they heard there was a really good social media campaign. Again, we were supported by Peabody in the social media campaign, retweeting, Instagram, Facebook, and that was really important. So this is our garden. So there we go. We also had an installation in the garden. There's Farouk Agoro, who made an installation of things that he found in our garden. Like we've got these spools from the electricians that we could display the plants on for members of the public to come in and buy. This is us, mixture of Peabody residents, and the significance being at the very front and the two back people are youth on this estate who were involved in the dispersal order. So they were affected by the dispersal order and asked if they could apply for funds, and one of them did, to put on this festival. And this is what happened. So this was our last day, the thank you. And we are going to repeat this festival. It was very positive outcome to a very negative situation. And I'm just going to end on this quote. You shouldn't have to leave your neighborhood to live in a better one. And that's an urban revitalization strategist, Marjora Carter. So we've been looking at ways to be resilient and asked for future funding and continued sharing what we learned from the first festival. So that's me.
That's lovely. Thank you very much, Carol. Some great pictures. And I see you've got the posters behind you there, which is nice to see. I'm going to hand over now to Ali Perrott, who will give us a bit of information about the project that she delivered.
Thank you. I'm just going to wait till that. Here we go. That comes up. So hi, everyone. My name's Ali and I work for RCCE, which stands for the Rural Community Council of Essex. A little bit of background then. RCCE was founded nearly 100 years ago to help combat isolation and loneliness in the rural communities of Essex. We've retained this founding ethos, and 2 years ago, we started the United in Kind movement. And United in Kind specifically targets social isolation and loneliness across Essex through acts of kindness. Most of the work that we've been doing, as you can imagine, over the last year has been socially distanced, as we are unable to work out in the community as we usually do. So we've been keeping ourselves busy, engaging people in creating craft projects and encouraging small acts of kindness in the community. I'm going to switch to the next slide, please. Thank you. This Christmas, we decided to put together Christmas bags of kindness, or bags of Christmas kindness, which would include donations from local community groups, schools.
Sorry, Ali, I think you've accidentally switched yourself to mute.
I've lost myself for a moment.
You're back.
There. Excuse me. Let's go back to what we decided to do this Christmas then. Putting together Christmas bags of kindness, which would include donations from local community groups, schools and organisations. And then we deliver them to people who are feeling lonely or socially isolated. So I talked to local partners in my area of Basildon, South Essex, which is where I work, about how we might collaborate on these bags of kindness and put them together. And when I spoke to Ella from Peabody, she told me all about her Knit and Natter group from the King Edward Community Centre in Leindon in Basildon, which is why you're seeing a picture of a very, very cute snowflake, excuse me, snowflake of hope on your screen. Firstly, she kindly agreed that the Knit and Natter group were going to knit us some snowflakes for our kindness bags. So that got me going with the kindness bags. And then she also told me about the Peabody Grant and encouraged me to apply for funds for some of the items that I wanted to put in. So perhaps some of the nice to have things, some chocolates and Christmas things and things like that. So next slide, please. Oh, actually, no, go back one would be for a second. Thank you before you get that. So on the process side, as Helen was telling you, we got an application and budget forms, and I did feel they're really simple to complete. The approval from Peabody came through in less than 2 weeks. Yes. And the goods were then to be purchased centrally and delivered to me. We did have a little bit of a hiccup on the timings because we were on a Christmas deadline, and Ella had to step in and purchase some stuff locally, but that was a little bit of it, the only hiccup really. Otherwise it went really, really well. So yes, next slide, please. And I just thought I'd let you know who contributed to the bags of kindness. You can see there that we've got the snowflakes from the Knitter and Natter group. We've got these lovely handmade cards and tree decorations from a local primary school. They got the whole school involved in writing cards and making those little decorations. It's absolutely delightful. I get very excited about these things. And then the local council for voluntary service, so that's Basildon, Wickford, Basildon, Billericay and Wickford, they provided us with some winter warmer packs. So you can see there's a rather swish looking hot water bottle on that screen and a little hat and some other things that went with it. And last but absolutely not least, Peabody's grant allowed us to buy lots of chocolates basically for Christmas, and the bags that went in them. So that's everybody that contributed, and that's what they look like at the end. So next slide, please. And most importantly, who received these bags. I wanted a targeted approach for this, to selecting the people who were going to receive the kindness bags. I wanted to avoid patronizing anybody by assuming that they might want to be given a kindness bag. So I got in touch with these two organizations and asked them to get involved. So that's how it came about, that we shared out the bags between Basildon Mind and Home Instead Senior Care from Basildon as well. And also my Home Instead colleague volunteers for another charity, Re-Engage, and we gifted some of the bags to her clients as well. In total, we made 60 bags. We had some quite unexpected and lovely feedback from people. Just asked people to let us know what they thought of it after they'd received them. We heard from recipients themselves. We heard from family members, carers, all sorts of people that came back. Just two quotes then. One lady came back and said that it had made her Christmas to get a bag of kindness. And another lady said that it had just meant so much to her to know that people had been thinking of her. Very isolated lady, and it really did mean a lot. So when you look at these things, it might not look that significant, but actually they can mean an awful lot to people. Okay, so last slide, please. Look at us. What are we doing at the moment? We're still we're still gifting this. We're knitting. All sorts of people are doing things. This isn't all that we do, as you know. We're really out in the community, helping people to set up things in usual times. And I'm hoping that I'll get the opportunity to work with Peabody again when we have something suitable to collaborate on. So thank you very much, Peabody. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Ali, for telling us about the project. I actually received a snowflake from the Knit and Natter group as well, and it was amazing. I was very pleased to receive it in the post. So before I go over to the Q&As, I hope that that gives you a bit of a taste of what projects have been delivered, and also the ease in which I think we can get the applications through. I have a few questions that have come through on screen, and I'm going to read them, so you may have to bear with me. I think the first one I'll ask to you, Helen, and that is, how old do you have to be to apply for the community grant?
Yes, so we run these grants for people 26 and over. That is because we have a similar grant, which is a Young Leaders Grant, which is for people 25 and under. So that's not because we don't want to support people who are under 26, but we have a separate grant for that. So if that applies to you, that you're under 26, then we can signpost you towards the Young Leaders Grant. If you are over 26, then this is the right place for you. And there's no upper limit. Yes.
Thank you, Helen. I think I'm going to ask you the second one as well, and that is there more detailed guidance on the sort of projects that you that we would want support?
Yeah, we don't have detailed guidance in the sense of a sort of yes, we will, no, we won't. I can talk to you a little bit about some of the things that we won't fund. So some of the things we won't be able to fund through the grant. Things like paying salaries is something that we can't cover the cost of. What we're ideally not looking to support, or we're not looking to support organizations that might be offering something that communities or people have to pay for. So if it was a program, for example, for a paid class that people could attend, and you wanted to get funding so that you could set yourself up, that would be more like a small business grant. So it's not, what the work you would have to be doing would have to be free for the people who would benefit from it. So that would be something we wouldn't support if it was a paid offering.
So is the best starting point for people to fill in the project idea form and then get some feedback on it?
Yeah, so they can go straight ahead and fill the application form. What I would say is, don't feel that once you've submitted the application form, if you make a mistake, it'll be a no-go. We can definitely have a conversation. If I see that the project is an absolute, really something we wouldn't do, I can get back in touch with you and let you know why that would be, and you can have another think about it. Otherwise, we will have conversations until we figure out how we can, make your grant work. I think other things just to bear in mind that we would be really looking to be careful about would be making sure your program was, you'd considered the risks. So we wouldn't want to support something that was going to be, a massive sort of COVID-19 risk or something like that. But it's not so much about what the theme of the project would be that would put us off from funding. If the person who asked that question wants to post their rough idea, I can give you an idea. If that would save you time, I'm happy to do that. If you want to post, a title of your project or a rough idea, I can.
It's lovely. Thank you, Helen. I think, Ali, I'll ask you about the next one because you mentioned it. Do applicants have to manage the budget?
Oh, no, my understanding is that, well, not my understanding, no is the answer to that. In as much as the form that, again, that Helen was talking about in terms of setting your budget when you're applying for the grant, then it is an itemized budget, or certainly was in my case, an itemized set of, what do I think I'm going to spend, how much, how many, that kind of thing.
So it's fairly straightforward.
And then actually a link to purchasing that online. Now, it doesn't have to be that, but that's what I did. And it meant that centrally, wherever you are, central person would then purchase those items on my behalf. So I'm not handling the actual money. Yeah. I'm getting those things purchased and then delivered to wherever is appropriate. Is that what usually happens? Because I've just done it.
There's a few different ways. That's definitely one of the ways that we've done it, and up until now, one of the piece of feedback that we actually got from your round of funding, not you specifically, Ali, but generally, is that can sometimes be a bit slow for people who might have a shorter time limit for the project that they're trying to run. So there's a couple of different ways that we can get the funding to you. One is doing it the way that Ali's just described, which is you tell us what to buy and we buy it for you, and then it's delivered to you. Sometimes that can be a little bit slower because, you know, we're a small team and we have lots of applications, and also that, you know, getting addresses right and all of that kind of thing. So that's one option. We're happy to do that. Another way of doing it would be, if you have the cash in hand, we can reimburse you for purchases that you make yourself. So that might be a quicker way of getting the money to you. What we can't do is a bank transfer. So we can't just give you £500 and then have you spend it in the way that you want to spend it. So we can only reimburse you for a receipt or an expense, or we can purchase the items for you. So is that, I hope that's what that question was about, managing the budget. If you mean about, yeah, whether you have the money and you have to manage it yourself, then that hopefully answers that question.
I mean, I just add to that's where we had a bit of a hiccup because of timings and things, and then we sort of turned it around and did it locally. So I think
that's one of the learnings I think we've had, Ali, because we really appreciated that feedback, because you know, lots of people also want to buy from a local store and support a shop in the area, and we also really want to encourage that as well. But that just means that you would have to have the money ready, and then we'll reimburse you almost as soon as we possibly can. So there are ways around it, but
I think what I'm hearing is that it's a fairly straightforward process to set out your budget, and then people will get ongoing support, and there are a number of ways in which the money can be handled either directly or indirectly. So I think that hopefully will cover the question. I think I can answer the next question, but I'd be interested to get some feedback maybe from Carol on this. So the question is, do Peabody support you throughout the grant process? And my answer is yes, absolutely. But let's hear from Carol.
Yes, they do. So it's a case of once you talk about your idea, and then they help with the budget breakdown, the risk assessment, you know, and with this time around we need public liability insurance. So you kind of, if you've had one, you learn from the first one. And so that cuts out, and we did have hiccups with refreshments and things like that. So cards were found to pay for things, and then that was taken out of our funds, you know, our grant bid. So that those things I know will be ironed out. So yeah, it's important that that applicants like ourselves, because we also had a Young Leaders Grant, are supported in the process. You know, so it's good to know that the application is now has now been simplified.
Great. Thank you, Carol. And you also mentioned social media support as well, which is really important.
Yeah, it really is.
The next question is, do funded projects need to engage with a certain number of people? And I think that's for you, Helen.
Yeah, so we are not necessarily looking for a target number of total people. We've funded projects that are reaching, you know, sort of more than 800, more than 1,000 people, just because, you know, an event like Carol's, you could reach any number of people. You don't know who's going to come, and you know, you're inviting the whole community. We've had other events where, you know, the entire estate has been invited, and that's obviously a much wider reach. We've also funded projects which are reaching sort of 8 individuals or 10 individuals who really need that support. So there is no minimum or maximum. Obviously, we would really like to get the support to as many people as possible, but we're definitely not looking at a minimum reach. No. And I think just to add to that, one of the things that's important to note is that we really like our projects to also reach Peabody residents. I think someone else has asked the question, do you need to be a Peabody resident? And the answer to that is no, you don't need to be a Peabody resident to apply for the grant, but we would really like to help your project reach Peabody residents. So, you know, through our social media, through our comms team, if we can promote what you're running to our residents so that they can also benefit from your brilliant work, that would be really great for us. And if you are a Peabody resident, you're probably already marketing it to Peabody residents anyway. But yes, that would be something we would love to see. But you don't need to be a Peabody resident to apply.
Lovely, thank you, Helen. And it's a follow-up question actually on the age group for grant recipients. So the question is the grant, the Young Leaders Grant, is that still £500 per project?
Yes, that is also £500 per project. I think we have some larger Young Leaders grants, but they are working with partnership groups and things like that. So the Young Leaders Grant, I think, is 500 still. Yeah. same as
Lovely. Thank you. The next question is from someone who's a freelancer, and they wanted to ask, they're getting involved with local community groups and running voluntary craft and wellness sessions. Are you able to apply for the grant as an individual?
Definitely. This is a grant. This is a grant for individuals. So while we have had applicants who've applied as part of a group, they are applying as an individual mainly. So we're very keen to fund individuals. Philip, who you saw on the video that we watched, he's an individual, but he's set up his own sort of initiative, but he is applying as an individual. So yes, definitely.
Thank you. And the last question that we have coming through, sorry, we put a post on about the Young Leaders Grant in the chat room, but again, we'll circulate that information as a follow-up to you all as well. So I think this one may be for you, Ali. So with something like the Christmas Bags project, how would you access individuals who are really isolated and not already connected with organisations like Mind or other caregiving organisations?
That is the toughest nut to crack, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
Seriously, if it really is the toughest nut to crack. I think that it is it really is a tough one. I would say I can look at it in one way, which is that which is possibly a bit of a cop-out, which is that if people are accessing organisations, support organisations, whatever they might be, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're then surrounded by, that they're not lonely or indeed socially isolated. So there is that kind of end of the argument. But how to reach people who are not reaching anybody is any ideas? It is a real big challenge.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean, and I think one of the things that I would say from if you are a Peabody resident, we have quite a lot of insight, either through our caretaking staff, our neighbourhood managers, or your neighbours. So, if you're aware of vulnerable residents living on your estates or in the community, that is one way that we would certainly target people. And sometimes it's just quite helpful to kind of contact some of those on the ground groups and some of those voluntary organisations, because they tend to engage with people. So great that we have sort of bigger organisations that we can work with, but equally there are lots of really small community groups out there who have got to, really do have their finger on the pulse of what's happening locally.
It's the mix, isn't it? It's getting that mix, I think. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll move on to the next question, which is, if I'm awarded funding, is there a time limit on when I need to deliver the project?
Shall I take that one?
Yeah, sorry, Helen.
Right. Yeah, so there's no time limit, and what we would suggest is, if your project is maybe open-ended, you want to do it but you don't have a sort of deadline. I know Carol had a time, she had a festival or an event that she was running, and Ali had a Christmas deadline. So some people do have that sort of solid deadline. Some people have an idea and they'd like to do it, and whenever it happens is a good time for them. So we don't have a deadline in terms of from when you apply to when you have to be running your project. We obviously, since we're funding you either in kind or so buying resources for you, or as a reimbursement, we would need you would be receiving the resources at that same time. So ideally you would be running it sort of soon after you receive the funding. But there's no sort of strict timelines for that. And, some of our projects we were really excited about, and then obviously COVID-19 has meant that we're not able to do them because of lockdown restrictions. We're well prepared for that sort of thing to happen. I think we all have to be now. So yes, there's no strict deadlines about that, but we'd obviously like to make sure your project gets off the ground, and a sort of ultimate deadline would be at the end of the next financial year. So this project runs from April till March 2022, so quite a bit of time.
Thank you, Helen. The next question is, I don't think there is a Peabody estate near where I live. Can I get funding for a project in my area, but then forward the idea to Peabody? So just before you answer that one, Helen, I would say that if you're not sure if there's a Peabody estate in your area, you can always ask us. We can kind of map out and let you know the information. But if someone did have an idea, could they forward it to us, potentially be delivery in another area?
In the sense that they would run it and then we would maybe replicate that work in our outreach programs.
Yes, I think that's the question.
So I think it depends. If a project has been really effective and has really worked, and we think our residents would really benefit from it, we would love to learn from that experience and take it forward and pick it up. We don't necessarily have program teams who are always picking up those ideas and running with it every day, but we definitely like to explore it. What we can do if there's not an estate in your area, or there's no way for you to reach residents, potentially we can look at if there's able to make that an online offering as well as a live offering. So can we market it to our residents who can join for an online version of whatever it is you might be thinking of doing? Or even if residents are willing to travel, could they come and be part of it anyway? So I think we'd look at how we can manage it if there is no way of reaching Peabody residents physically in your area.
Lovely, thank you, Helen. And then the next question is, can I apply for funding more than once?
Yes, we are able to accept multiple rounds of funding if and when your initial application project has completed, and assuming that all of the expenses and evaluations are completed for your first project. So a very good reason to keep on top of your paperwork and to make sure that we have everything before we sort of, say the project's wrapped up and finished. Then we would be really happy to welcome future applications and explore another set of work together. Yeah.
And the next question is, which I think I can answer, is there a simple guide to all of the grants that Peabody have on offer that we could send out to everyone? And I think that's a good idea. We should circulate around a list of what grants are available when we do the
that has been talked about. Yeah, I think that's something somebody else has raised with us, and I think that might be being worked on, possibly by Andrea, but we will find out where it is, and we could definitely circulate that. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you. And the next one, I'll bring the panel back in, guys. Sorry, lots of technical questions about the grant, but the question is, what can completing the project lead to in the future? And I don't know, Carol or Ali, if you would like to comment on what next after you get your startup grant.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, for us, it kind of depends. It's that big question, isn't it? What happens in the future, and when do we start doing things back in, sorry, Carol, a bit maybe different for you, but back in the community. So the kind of things that we did with the bag of kindness, we might be doing something similar, not the same, but similar. And we may be coming to you and saying, look, we've got this idea and we're going to reach X, X, Y, Z set of people. But I'm looking forward to, I'm getting really vague here because I don't know what we're going to do, but I am going to say I am looking forward to having some ideas that we can get out in the community and do face to face. And I don't think I'm the only one who feels like that.
Carol, is there anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, well, we applied for Arts Council money, and we got Arts Council money to do a second version of the festival next month for 3 days. And this time, because we're only coming out of lockdown slowly, this is all online. So no charity plant sale, nothing in the community garden. So it's online, but thinking beyond that to the estate's 150th, because that's what people are focusing on really. It's applying for funding for that. So for the young leaders and other people on the estate, because they have clear ideas on what they would like to see for those birthday celebrations. And also we've been under lockdown for so long, So yeah, mental and physical well-being is the priority. So yeah, more funding.
Thank you. And I guess from a Peabody perspective, we see this grant fund really as a starting point for lots of groups, individuals and organizations, pretty simple, straightforward application process, support around risk assessments in your communications plan and outreach, and really using this as a starting point really to apply to other sources of funding, which is, I'm really pleased to hear that Carol has secured additional funding through the Arts Council. So we see as the start of something which can really be bigger, and us supporting groups to help build their capacity to achieve that as well. I think we've taken all of the questions. As I said at the beginning, we will circulate the links that we've shared with you all. I hope that was useful. We're going to do a quick poll just to ask whether or not you would find sessions like this useful in the future, and how we should market them to you. And I'm hoping that one of my colleagues will. It should pop up on your screen now. So if you'd like to answer yes or no, that would be great. Then you can just hit submit. Whilst you're doing that, it just leaves me to thank our panel members this evening for taking time to come along and talk to us about their projects. Thank you all very much, Helen, Carol, and Ali, for thanking you for attending. I hope you find the session useful. Yeah, we've got the poll results in. 91% of you find it useful, so we will definitely do it again. And just finish off by saying thanks to Shakira and our events team who pulled everything together for us. So thank you all very much. We will organise a future session and we will get the details out to you. And I hope you all have a good evening.